excuse the crack screen. We've got about 4 minutes and 45 seconds until I have to pull a pie out of the oven. This is my first time making pie. Thought I'd start easy with blueberry. Blueberries are expensive, as are most things. But anyway, we're not talking about blueberries or pie. I want to talk about something very interesting to me. And interesting in the sense that it's not interesting. A pencil, okay? Standard number 2 pencil. Got the pink eraser, the weird green binding here. Dixon Ticonderoga. I think that's the first time I've actually ever said that word. But this is pretty much ubiquitous. If you went to school in America, I guess, I don't know if they have these in other countries, but at least in my mind, when I think pencil, this is what I think. It's simple. There's no fluff, no flaws about it. Yeah, every now and again it'll get dull, but you sharpen it down. And I cannot belabor this point enough. There's nothing better than writing with a sharp pencil. Best feeling in the world. Doodling with a sharp pencil, unmatched. But this is a pencil, you know. You can do like you can do some pencil tricks with it. You can draw a masterpiece. You can write a novel with one of these, or you can just say, I need to get eggs at the store, okay? It is a pencil. What you choose to do with it is your prerogative, first of all, but it is basic. It gives you all the tools you need to either succeed or to fail. But it also has an eraser, so you can fix your mistakes. But anyway, this pencil is going to be a metaphorical representation, something else that is just simple. This is, of course, the Canon TX. Now, I've talked about this a number of times with people that I spend time with, I guess. I've not talked about it on this channel too much, I don't think. But the TX is the textbook definition of simplicity. There's no fat, nothing to trim off on this camera. It is so brutally simple that it's beautiful in that regard. It's something that I really cherish about this camera. A few things that I'm not a huge fan of is the size. It's generally a little bit too large. It's still in that same body type as the FTB, the TL, TLB, FT, all of that. It's the same kind of body type. And the F1s, like the original F1, and then I believe all the subsequent F1s maintain the same dimensions, but regardless, it's the same full-bodied metal Canon SLR. This was like the beginning of the SLRs that Canon offered. I will do a walkthrough video as well of it, but I mean, honestly, we can do a walkthrough right now. It's so basic. So there's the advance lever here. It has the nice, it has a little bit of a grip for your thumb, so like small attention to details there. Shutter speed dial as well as the ASA dial. Same deal as the every other one. You lift up and rotate around. The shutter speeds, interestingly enough, only go up to 1/500th of a second, which is kind of a limiting thing, but at the same time, what do you want? There's a shutter button here, no locking mechanism, so be careful with that. The rewind lever here, pull up on that, open up the back. Inside of the camera here. No quick loading system, so obviously in my mind I think this is better than the FTB QL. On the bottom here you've got the rewind button, so you press in on that and then reel the film back in. This is a standard cloth shutter. Hot shoe on the top, flash sync speed of 60, and then tripod mount on the bottom. There is a flash sync port right here, and then this is not a self-timer. I used to think it was, and I was like, why does the self-timer never work? But it's actually just a depth of field preview. Nice feature, not really included, and I think that's why I like this most of all, is because it has this as opposed to a self-timer. I'd much prefer a depth of field preview. I find myself using those more than I've ever used a self-timer, and it just simplifies the whole mechanism in my mind. So yeah, this is a video of me cleaning it. Enjoy. Pi turned out pretty good. I'm gonna try and throw a video together about it. With that out of the way, let's go back to talking about the TX. I think it's a few things. For me personally, looking at this, it makes me think of like a detox retreat or something like that, where, you know, rich people send themselves or their children without any phones or whatever, and they go chill in the woods or on an island for a little bit and just kind of get to grips with themselves. I don't know if that's a thing. I feel like there's movies about that, but I don't know if it's real, because I feel like that might be just kidnapping. But anyway, that's what this kind of would be. And I don't know, I feel like there's a misconception in the film photography community, especially presently how it exists, and that a lot of it's centered around image. Not images that you take necessarily, but the image that you give off. And if you come in with, you know, M4 strapped around your shoulder, you got your Hasselblad, whatever, you've got an F3 around your neck, which I do like the F3, so I wouldn't mind that strapped around me. But, you know, any of these things, you know, if you've got a AE1, that even is a status symbol, but these are viewed more as, yeah, it's like more social tools than like actual tools for photography. And I feel like something like this is so unassuming, and it's very limited too. Like, I made this mention a few times before, where I talk about like a K1000 versus an FTB or something like that, or the K1000 versus a KM. And I'll say very often that, well, the KM has more to offer, and that makes it better. And I do think that's true. I think in certain circumstances, like, I think that if we're honest here, and I'm looking at these two cameras, imagine that this has the little dial there, but also imagine that the prism wasn't rattling around. But if we're looking at these two cameras, and if they're priced roughly the same, I'm not going to say, oh, you definitely get the TX. I'm going to say probably go with the FTB, because you can just do more with it. Maybe not this FTB, I think this still needs some love, obviously. But, you know, you have a higher shutter speed. You have a few more like creative options with this than you do with the other camera, and also I think the locking mechanism itself is well worth it. The light meter is a little bit better in this, not a whole lot, but still, I don't want to get caught in the semantics here of this argument. The point that I'm trying to elicit is that this is a very niche instrument. For the time, it was marketed as a simple camera, as I mentioned before. This is the point and shoot with a little bit of mental processing required. I would argue that the Canon T kind of falls into a similar pattern as this, and that's not me trying to rationalize why the Canon T is the best camera of all time. It's just me trying to say that that camera alone kind of satisfies the need of a point and shoot without the autofocus element. This is of that same ilk, in the sense that you don't really need to do much to take a photo. You need to select the shutter speed, and that's pretty much it. And an aperture, obviously, and a lens. But, like, okay, let me just make the point a little more simple here. If you have something like this, you're pretty much good to go. The only qualm I have with this one in particular, I don't know if the light meter works on this, because I'm still waiting on fresh batteries, but I don't like the screw in the side. I don't know what Canon was thinking, but they just went from bad to worse in my mind. Just be normal with your battery placement. I don't know what was the thought there, but anyway, it's the same thing with the FTB. It's the same thing with the TL, TLB, FT, all that stuff. It's just I just don't like that. It doesn't do anything for me. But anyway, again, I digress. I'm getting caught in the weeds here. The point that I want to make when I talk about the TX, and why I mention how amazing it is that it's just simple, that's the word I'm going to continue going back to, it's simple, is that you're probably not going to turn a lot of heads with this camera, okay? Actually, the other day, my buddy and I were walking out, and I had my MX, and he had his FM, and a guy came up from like one of the tables at this restaurant we were at, and he's talking to us about cameras and stuff, and I always enjoy that because it's like, I want to hear what their experience is like with cameras, and everybody has their own little nuggets of information to give, and that has value, so long as they're like cool and it's not like a weird conversation. It's all good, but I've yet to have too many weird conversations, so I don't mind. Something like this is not going to turn a lot of heads. It's just, oh, that's a neat old camera. But you're not going to get somebody who's like, oh wow, that's so cool, like that's a whole lot of money or something, because it's not that. It's not about that at all. It's just about practicality and use. Going back to the pencil, see? Let me see, I got this, 1 second. I can do this. We can do this. All right, ready? So we started here. I meandered, little hiccups here and there. This was when the pie came in. We come back out strong. It's about as close to a full circle as I think I'm capable of getting on this channel. But we started talking about the pencil. Simple design, okay? For the most part, I believe these have been around since, I think it was like a chisel and tablet for a while. And then this, pretty much. I don't think there was maybe like somebody plucked an ostrich and used one of those. But then I think pretty much immediately after that, we jumped onto the pencil. And outside of changing the lead to graphite, outside of changing the mercury battery to nickel cadmium, which I think is what's in there now. I'll have to double check that. But anyway, outside of these minor changes, because people are kind of morons and we poison ourselves, outside of those things, the form is consistent. The function is consistent. The deliverance is... do-do-do-do-do-do-do-do. Got a pretty mouth, boy. The quality of work that can be done is entirely dependent upon the user and the user's desire, drive, motivating factors, any of these things, okay? This is just the instrument. Any other camera is just the instrument. So, simple like this, basic like this. Not a knock on the system. If anything, I find that it is a source of clarity. You're not getting bogged down in, well, should I shoot it aperture priority or shutter speed priority? Whatever different little options that do make life easier, don't get me wrong. I definitely appreciate systems that make it easier to shoot photography. I'm not trying to argue that point. All I'm trying to say is that something like this, you are not spoiled with options with a Canon TX. It's a good thing. It's a refinement. It's a refinement of the tool to the base component. Oh my god. It's just like we're yelling. We're yelling outside. Give me 5 minutes, please. 5 minutes and I can finish this up. It's getting louder. He's getting louder. Alright, well, I'm probably going to get back to work in here soon. I just wanted to quickly illustrate this camera because I got it in, and it's something I talk to people a lot about because the original manual for it says simple. That is like the tagline of this camera. And that in of itself, I think is great because it's one of the few cameras that really recognizes its audience and adheres to that audience, as opposed to like there are other systems obviously that are more in line with, you know, the more professional field, for instance, but you don't see professionals using those as much anymore. I cannot work in these conditions. That's pretty much it. Simple, clean, that is it. I hope you enjoyed this video. I apologize for it kind of jumping rails here at the last minute. Canon TX. What are your thoughts on it? Did any of what I just said make sense? I'm trying to find a way to commemorate it for its simplicity and to hopefully help illustrate that at the end of the day, something like this can take just as good of photos as something like just whatever's closest to me here. I guess we'll do this. Something like this. Something that's more highly sought after. Please stop. Please stop. You're forcing yourself onto this conversation here, bud. Oh, God. Okay, anyway. Something like this. Okay, highly sought after. Oh my God. Okay. Canon TX, I hope some of this made sense. I apologize for just this video, but I hope you enjoy it. I hope that it's watchable. I'll probably revisit this point in a future video where I'm not as distracted, and hopefully I can walk through a few more of my thoughts. I do plan on shooting with this soon, and I'm very much looking forward to that experience. Thank you as always for watching. Make sure to like the video if you enjoyed it. Subscribe to the channel if you've not already done so. You make sure you subscribe because I'm going to be talking about this bad boy, which is my waist level viewfinder AE1. Huh? Just kidding. But I am repairing this, and I think this will be a great video. So stay tuned for that. It'll probably be a couple months if I'm honest. We're way behind on edits, but until then, I appreciate you watching. Thank you, as always, and I'll catch you on the next one.